You're sitting around a campfire. Smoke stings your eyes. You step aside, cough, wave it away. Now imagine you're trapped inside a cave with that fire. No windows, no doors, just rock walls and one entrance. How do you not suffocate? How do you not fill the entire space with choking smoke that kills you in your sleep? 40,000 years ago, your ancestors figured this out. They had to. Ice Age Europe was brutal. Outside temperatures hit minus 40 Celsius. Inside caves, they needed fire to survive. But fire makes smoke. Smoke kills. So how did they engineer their way out of this death trap? The answer sits in caves across Europe, from Spain to Siberia, hard evidence, measurable solutions, numbers that work. If you value documented prehistoric engineering like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual using sources from experimental archaeology studies and cave site excavations. Now back to the story. Let's start with Abri du Maras in France. 1,000 years ago, Neanderthals living deep inside a limestone cave. French archaeologists find their hearths, not random fire pits, organized heating stations, each one positioned exactly where thermal currents flow best. They mapped the cave's airflow first, then placed fires to work with it, not against it. The physics are simple. Hot air rises, cold air sinks. Caves breathe, outside air enters low. Heated air exits high. But you need the right cave geometry. You need depth changes, ceiling height variations, natural chimneys. The Neanderthals at Abri du Maras chose their cave because it already had this. They didn't fight the airflow. They used it. El Sidrón Cave in Spain proves they got even smarter. 37,000 years ago, multiple hearth positions throughout the cave system. Each fire placed where smoke gets pulled toward natural vents. Spanish researchers tracked carbon deposits on the ceiling. The smoke patterns show deliberate engineering. These weren't accidents, they were solutions. But the real breakthrough comes from Grotte Chauvet in France, 36,000 years ago, the famous cave paintings. But forget the art for a second. Look at the torch systems. Researchers found burn marks from pine torches positioned in specific alcoves. Each alcove creates a small thermal updraft. The smoke gets trapped in these pockets, then pulled toward the main cave entrance by the primary airflow. They turned cave geometry into a ventilation system. Experimental archaeology proves this works. Researchers in the Weser Valley built replica cave chambers. Exact dimensions based on Paleolithic sites. They lit fires using period-correct materials. Juniper wood, pine branches, animal fat. Then measured internal air quality. With random fire placement, carbon monoxide levels hit lethal within hours. With engineered placement following Paleolithic patterns, air stayed breathable for days. The numbers are clear. Random fire placement creates 800 parts per million carbon monoxide within 4 hours. That kills you. Engineered Paleolithic placement keeps levels under 50 parts per million for 72 hours. That keeps you alive. Temperature management was just as precise. Cave Bear Cave in Austria shows how they controlled heat distribution. 25,000 years ago, hearths placed in a triangle pattern, each fire positioned to create overlapping warm zones without creating deadly hotspots. Internal temperatures stayed between 12 and 18 Celsius. Outside was minus 30. The cave system became a thermal machine. They even managed smoke density through fire size control. Fumine. Cave in Italy preserves hearth remains from 40,000 years ago. Each fire pit measures exactly 60 centimeters across, not larger. Larger fires create too much smoke too fast. Smaller fires don't provide enough heat. 60 centimeters was the sweet spot. Italian archaeologists tested this. 60-centimeter fires with proper air placement keep caves habitable for extended periods. Fuel selection mattered just as much. Kabara Cave in Israel shows systematic wood choice. 48,000 years ago. Oak and carob wood dominate the samples. Both burn hot with minimal smoke production. They avoided pine and fir, which create thick, toxic smoke. They knew which trees killed and which ones saved lives. The engineering got more sophisticated over time. Dolní Věstonice in Czech Republic shows advanced techniques from 27,000 years ago. Multiple hearth systems with connecting air channels, small trenches carved between fire pits. These trenches directed airflow and smoke movement throughout the cave complex. The entire site became a controlled environment. Clay-lined fire pits appear around this same period. Pavlov in Czech Republic preserves examples from 26,000 years ago. The clay lining reflects heat more efficiently and burns cleaner. Less smoke per unit of heat produced. These weren't random improvements. They were calculated engineering advances. But here's where it gets really clever. Kostenki in Russia shows seasonal adaptation. 23,000 years ago. Different hearth configurations for winter versus summer use. Winter setups maximize heat retention with minimal air exchange. Summer configurations prioritize air circulation over heat conservation. They engineered for specific thermal conditions. The evidence extends across continents. Zhoukudian in China preserves similar systems from 200,000 years ago. Earlier humans, same problems, same solutions. Controlled fire placement, managed airflow, calculated fuel loads. The physics don't change. Smart engineering doesn't change. Experimental work in Romanian caves confirms the precision needed. Researchers replicated Paleolithic fire management in Peștera cu Oase. Wrong fire placement killed test subjects within hours. Correct Paleolithic placement kept air breathable for days. The margin for error was 0. Get it wrong, you die. Get it right, you live through winter. Cave depth determined strategy. Shallow caves under 10 meters needed simple inlet-outlet systems. Deep caves over 30 meters required complex thermal engineering. La Ferracie in France shows this perfectly. 15-meter depth. Single hearth positioned where natural convection carries smoke to the entrance. No additional engineering needed. Compare that to Cavemen in Spain, 40-meter depth. Multiple hearth zones with carved air channels connecting each level. Deep caves demanded advanced solutions. Material science played a crucial role. Burnt limestone creates calcium oxide. Mix with water, you get calcium hydroxide. Spread on cave walls, it absorbs carbon dioxide and moisture. Reduces air toxicity, prevents respiratory disease. Grotte de Spey in Belgium shows systematic lime treatment from 34,000 years ago. Wall sections coated with processed limestone. They weren't just managing fire, they were engineering air chemistry. Fire timing required mathematical precision. Arcy-sur-Cure in France preserves evidence of calculated burn cycles. 28,000 years ago, hearths show alternating use patterns. Fire in position 1 for 4 hours, position 2 for 4 hours, position 3 for 4 hours. Then back to position 1. This rotation prevented smoke buildup while maintaining constant heat. Each cycle calculated to work with cave ventilation timing. They understood pressure differentials. Wind direction affected cave breathing. Sites like Grotte du Trilobite in France show seasonal hearth repositioning. Winter fires placed for north wind patterns. Summer fires adjusted for south wind flows. Barometric pressure changes meant airflow changes. They tracked this and adjusted accordingly. Smoke deflection systems appear at multiple sites. Pinhole Cave in England shows stone barriers around hearths from 31,000 years ago. Not windscreens, smoke directors. Each barrier angled to channel smoke towards specific cave exits. The angles are precise, mathematical. 15 degrees off optimal and smoke fills the living area. They got the angles right. If you're enjoying this deep dive into prehistoric engineering, make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification bell. We've got more documented survival techniques coming up. Carbon isotope analysis reveals fuel management sophistication. Different wood types produce different carbon signatures. Sites show systematic rotation through fuel sources, not random gathering, planned harvesting, hardwoods for long burns, softwoods for quick heat, specific tree species for specific thermal needs. They managed forests like modern foresters manage timber plots. Air quality monitoring happened in real time. Mousterian sites in France preserve what archaeologists call test stones, small rocks placed in specific cave locations. These stones show heat stress patterns from 40,000 years ago. Move a test stone, you know air temperature in that spot. Move it again, you track air movement. They had primitive but effective environmental monitoring. Ventilation hole creation required advanced tool techniques. Cova de la Breda in Spain shows deliberately enlarged natural fissures. 32,000 years ago. Stone tools used to widen cracks in cave walls. Each modification increases airflow by measurable amounts. They weren't just using natural ventilation, they were improving it. Multi-chamber systems show the highest engineering complexity. Riparo Mochi in Italy preserves a 3-chamber setup from 24,000 years ago. Entrance chamber for daily activities, middle chamber for sleeping, deep chamber for food storage, each chamber with specific fire and airflow management, temperature gradients controlled throughout the system. Hot air flows from chamber to chamber in calculated patterns. Altitude-affected engineering requirements. High-altitude caves deal with lower oxygen levels, lower air pressure, different combustion characteristics. Abri Pataud in France sits at 800 meters elevation, shows modified fire management compared to sea level sites. Larger fire pits, more frequent air gaps, adjusted fuel loads. They understood how altitude changes fire behavior. Emergency ventilation systems appear at several sites. Quick opening air holes sealed with removable stone plugs. Grotte de Rennes in France preserves examples from 29,000 years ago. When smoke levels get dangerous fast, you need instant ventilation. These emergency systems provided that. Pull the plug stone, toxic air escapes immediately. Ground level air. Management used temperature differences. Cold air pools on cave floors. Hot air rises to ceilings. Bed platforms appear exactly where thermal layering keeps air breathable. Grotta de Combarel shows sleeping areas positioned in optimal air zones, 30 centimeters above floor level, exactly where air quality stays good even with multiple fires burning. Regional specialization developed over time. Northern European caves show cold weather optimization. Heat retention prioritized over air circulation. Southern European caves show warm weather engineering. Air movement prioritized over heat conservation. Scandinavian sites like Jels in Denmark show extreme cold adaptations. Fire systems designed for minus 50 Celsius external temperatures. Tool. Marks on cave walls reveal ventilation construction. Specific scraping patterns show air channel creation. Measured depths, consistent angles. Grotte de la Vache in France preserves construction marks from 21,000 years ago. They carved ventilation the same way modern builders install. Ductwork. Systematic, measured, professional. Smoke blackening patterns tell engineering stories. Random fire placement creates even ceiling blackening throughout caves. Engineered placement creates channeled blackening patterns. Smoke flows exactly where they wanted it to flow. Cueva de Altamira shows perfect smoke channeling from 18,000 years ago. Dark ceiling streaks leading directly to natural exits. Fuel preparation sites appear outside cave entrances. Wood processing areas with specific size standards, fuel cut to exact lengths for optimal burning, dried to specific moisture levels, processed bark removed or kept based on burn characteristics. They approached fuel like ammunition, standardized, tested, optimized. Air temperature monitoring used biological indicators. Specific insect species survive in specific temperature ranges. Archaeological sites preserve insect remains from hearth areas. These insects indicate exact air temperatures around fires. Grotta do Mas d'Azul shows temperature-specific insect populations from 16,000 years ago. They knew exactly how hot their air got. Winter engineering required extreme precision. Ahrensbrungian sites in northern Germany show maximum optimization for cold survival. External temperatures dropping to minus 60 Celsius. Internal cave systems maintaining livable conditions through calculated fire management. One mistake meant death for entire groups. The engineering had to be perfect. Water vapor management prevented cave flooding. Fire creates steam. Steam condenses on cold cave walls. Too much condensation floods cave floors. Drainage systems appear at multiple Paleolithic sites. Grotta de Nio shows carved drainage channels from 14,000 years ago. They managed water as carefully as they managed smoke. The knowledge transfer systems become visible in the archaeological record. Teaching areas appear at several sites, spaces where fire management was demonstrated. Practice hearths with evidence of controlled failures. Training areas where smoke management techniques were taught to younger generations. Knowledge preservation through hands-on education. Failure evidence appears too. Sites abandoned due to poor air management. Cave floors littered with incomplete occupation layers. Groups that got the engineering wrong and had to evacuate. Sites like Cueva Morin in Spain show evidence of smoke-related abandonment. They tried to occupy the cave, but failed to solve the ventilation problems. The timeline shows steady improvement. Early sites have simple solutions. Later sites show increasingly sophisticated engineering, but the sophistication peaked during the last glacial maximum, 22,000 years ago, coldest period of the Ice Age, when survival demanded perfect engineering, when mistakes meant extinction. Modern cave research confirms their precision. Scientists using laser airflow measurement find optimal fire placement in Paleolithic caves, matches modern engineering calculations exactly. Computational fluid dynamics models predict smoke flow patterns. Archaeological hearth placement matches these predictions perfectly. 40,000 years ago, they solved problems that require computers today. Wind deflection engineering reaches peak sophistication at Lascaux, 17,000 years ago. External wind baffles carved into the cliff face above the cave entrance. These baffles redirect surface winds to create negative pressure inside the cave. Negative pressure pulls smoke out faster than positive pressure pushes it in. They engineered the landscape itself to improve cave ventilation. Specialized fire. Tools reveal advanced understanding. Blum's Cave in South Africa preserves bone bellows from 75,000 years ago. Hand-carved animal bones with air holes. These bellows control fire intensity without creating excess smoke. More heat, same smoke output. They understood combustion efficiency at the tool level. Geographic networks show knowledge sharing. Similar ventilation techniques appear across vast distances simultaneously. Gravettian sites from France to Russia show identical fire management principles 28,000 years ago. Information traveled faster than populations moved. Technical knowledge spread through trade networks. Engineering expertise as valuable as flint or amber. Chemical analysis reveals smoke filter systems. Charcoal layers in specific cave sections show different burn characteristics, not fuel residue. Smoke processing residue, they burn charcoal as an air filter. Charcoal absorbs toxic gases, reduces smoke irritation, creates cleaner air in living. Spaces, activated carbon filters, Stone Age style. Occupational health evidence appears in skeletal remains. Respiratory disease patterns in cave-dwelling populations compared to open-air groups. Cave dwellers show less respiratory damage than expected, better air quality than outdoor winter exposure. Their engineering worked better than enduring harsh external conditions. Microclimate creation shows ultimate sophistication. Grotte des Trois Frères in France preserves evidence of zone-specific air management. 13,000 years ago, different cave sections maintained different temperatures and humidity levels. Art preservation areas kept dry and cool. Living areas kept warm and humid. Food storage areas kept cold and dry. They created controlled environments within natural caves. Computational modeling of Paleolithic sites reveals engineering principles still used today. Pressure gradient management, thermal stack effects, convection optimization, smoke stratification control. Modern HVAC engineers study Paleolithic cave management for energy-efficient building design. 40,000-year-old solution solving 21st century problems. But the most revealing discovery comes from recent analysis at Grotte de Fond de Gaume. 12,000 years ago, end of the Paleolithic. The cave shows systematic dismantling of ventilation systems, not abandonment, careful removal, stone by stone, channel by channel. They took their engineering with them. Recent excavations at Brillenhöhle in Germany reveal the final piece. 11,000 years ago, the very end of the Ice Age. Sophisticated. Smoke management systems still in use. But here's the twist. They found deliberate blockage of ventilation systems. Intentional sealing of air channels. The caves were being abandoned. The knowledge was being buried. Why seal working ventilation systems? Because the Ice Age was ending. Caves were no longer necessary. The engineering that saved humanity for 30,000 years was no longer needed. They sealed the systems and walked away into a warmer world, into permanent settlements, into history. But the sealed ventilation at Brillenhöhle wasn't just abandonment. Recent analysis of the blocking stones reveals something else. The stones contain carved marks, technical diagrams, engineering specifications they weren't destroying. The knowledge, they were preserving it for when the ice returned. The blocked channels at Brillenhöhle weren't failures, they were blueprints.